What's up, YouTube, Gen X? So my homegirl sent me another article of another story of a woman who sent her kid to a school district that the kid didn't fall into. And I guess what happened was the mother used the address of a friend or something like that so that the child can go to a better school. And she wanted to know how I felt coming from the standpoint of an educator, somebody that's in K through 12. How do I feel about that? Honestly, here's how I feel. I understand where she's coming from. I truly do. I truly do. You know, you look at a lot of your piss poor schools, and I say to myself, how could I ever have a child that literally went to this school? I mean, I'd rather have my kid homeschooled, and I hate to say that, but it's the truth. You know, I work in a lower income district, but my district isn't that bad. You know, our schools are decent. But I've seen some piss poor schools where it's just ugly. The physical nature of the school, the physical environment is ugly. Everything about the school is unappealing. So, understanding that, I look at what she did, and I can't shake my head and say, I have no idea why she did that. You know, I really can't say that at all. But do I condone that sort of behavior? No, I don't. I understand it, but I don't condone it. And I understand that there has to be some sort of consequence for that action. A slap on the wrist, oh, you caught me, that's not good enough. Because it's not going to stop other people from doing it. You understand where I'm coming from? And if it's understood that, if we lie and we get caught, and the only thing that's going to happen is that we're going to get a slap on the wrist, that's going to prompt more people to do that. More people to lie about an address, and it can really get out of hand rather quickly. Funds are already limited. So even with the kids that are supposed to be at the school, they're still struggling to meet the financial needs to really properly educate the kids that they have there now. They're already struggling. Let's keep it real here. So to have kids and students that don't belong there that are there, on top of the kids that are already supposed to be there, now you're dealing with a major problem. You truly are. And you really can't have that happen. I understand why she did it, and I understand why other people have done it in the past, and, why other people may try to do it in the future, but you really can't sit back and have this sort of slap on the wrist. Now, in the article that was sent to me, I guess the woman is facing jail time. I thought it was a fine. I don't know if it's jail time and a fine, but I know they were talking about jail time, I think 3 years or something like that. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't. But people are upset more so because of the fact that she may be put in jail. A lot of people are hot over that. And I understand why they're hot, but at the end of the day, there has to be a consequence. This idea that, give me a slap on the wrist, no. And this is what kind of annoys me about the black community. This idea that there shouldn't be any consequences for bad behavior. No. I understand why people do bad things. A lot of people, may do bad things for a good reason. But that doesn't take away from the fact that there has to be a consequence. And we really struggle with that concept. You can't do whatever. There is no slap on the wrist. It's like when you watch American Gangster. BET had that documentary on different drug dealers or whatnot. And at the end, they always talk about how they're changed people and how they should get a second shot and how they should be let out of jail or pardoned. And I'm like, okay, that's great. They made their mistakes, but there's consequences for what they did. They killed people. They destroyed communities. There has to be consequences. None of this, I'm sorry, now we can move on. No, there is no sort of second shot. And this is what a lot of black people don't understand. Time after time, you see the reoccurring theme of not understanding that there are consequences for bad behavior regardless of why you did what you did. Now, in my opinion, I think that the school district is trying to send a message to people, in terms of letting people know, hey, if you do this and we catch you, you're going to have to pay for it. I understand that. From coming from the educational side, I would probably do the same exact thing. There has to be some sort of consequence. Listen, the act of getting caught isn't going to deter people. What stops me and you from robbing a bank isn't the fact that we may get caught. No, it's the fact that we're going to get a whole bunch of years in jail. Just imagine if you got caught robbing a bank and the only thing you had to really pay was a fine, a $100 fine. That's not going to stop us from wanting to rob a bank because we know, hey, if I get caught, all I have to do is pay the $100 fine and I get to move on. What stops you from robbing a bank or robbing your neighbor is the fact that you're going to go to jail for a long time. So in order for the school district to prevent people from wanting to do this, there has to be some sort of consequence. There has to be some sort of punishment so people can understand if you get caught, this is what's going to happen. So you better think twice. And it may seem unfair, but it needs to happen. I understand that people are upset with education when it comes to education in communities that have a high minority population, in communities that are classified as lower income. There's a big problem there. And people are upset. But just because people are upset, we shouldn't have it where that leads to chaos. It's like me saying, I'm tired of all the drugs in the community, so let me go shoot every drug dealer that I see. How come I can't do that? I'm trying to I'm trying to help my community. I'm trying to make sure that my kids have a safe place to grow up, and I'm tired of these drug dealers selling dope. So how come I can't shoot them? You can't have it that way. And you can't justify it with, oh, well, he was a drug dealer. I understand why you shot him, but there has to be a consequence for what you did. And that's life. That is life. This is why, I'm big, and a lot of people are big about making sure you have your shit together before you have a child, for both men and women. People purposely hold off on having kids because they know that they're not living in the best of areas. People downsize to be in districts that have better schooling. Or people pay out of pocket, not because they want to live in some fancy upscale neighborhood, but because they want to be in a decent school district so that when they have kids, they're good to go. You have to look at that. And this goes back to people having kids but not thinking about raising those kids. You have to understand that beforehand. School district, that's big. That's why when people sell homes, the freaking real estate agent will say, oh, the school district is lovely. We may be on some like, this house is okay, I'm not really crazy about it. But the realtor is like, oh, well, that this, school district is, ranked in terms of the whole state. It's ranked number 5 in this region. It's like, oh, really? Let's buy this house, honey. That's how people think. That's how people operate. Now, let me say this to be fair before I end the video. The whole idea of parents lying about their address so that their kids can go to a better school or even a different school happens a lot. The problem isn't that the child went from a bad school to a good school. The problem was that the child was going to a school that they are not supposed to be at. So the whole idea of going from a bad school to a good school, to me, that's irrelevant. The problem is you're going to a school that you're not supposed to be at. And I say that because this problem happens a lot, where you have kids that are going to decent schools, but they want to go to a different school that they're not supposed to be in, maybe because their friends are there or because the school is slightly better. So it's not always about a child going from a bad school to a good school. So for me, I look at the problem not as much as good or bad, but just more so you're not where you're supposed to be. So you're messing up the count, you're messing up the numbers, you're setting stuff off balance. You're really fucking up the system or whatnot. So with that being said, it happens a whole lot. Even where I'm from, where you have kids that are going to good schools, but I want to go to this school because my friends are there, or because this school gets out earlier, or because this school has better food, or the teachers are better. So they'll lie about, their address. They may use a family friend, they may use a coworker's address, they may use a relative's address or whatnot. So a lot of people do it. You know, it's not just poor people. And quite frankly, I'm surprised it doesn't happen more in terms of kids that are, parents that have kids going to a piss-poor school, lying so that their kids can go to a better school. I'm really surprised that it doesn't happen a whole lot more, and I'm surprised that, you know, it's an issue now. I would assume that this problem should have been happening in the 70s and the 80s. Maybe it did. I don't know. But at the end of the day, my thing is we have to crack down all the way. We can't overlook what's going on. You know, what happened more than likely was you have this kid going to a new school, and they probably didn't fit in terms of the academic ability, how they were dressed or whatnot. In elementary school, you can tell. Middle school, high school, you know, it's difficult to know where a kid may be from because a lot of people may be lying. You have fashion, styles of dress. But in elementary school, you know. You can look at the kid and know that, okay, that kid is middle class, that kid is upper class, that kid is poor, that kid is lower income. In elementary school, based off how they're dressed, based off of how they come to school, are their shoes clean, you know, are they crusty, do they look like they took a shower? You can tell. So more than likely, this kid probably went to a school, didn't fit in. You know, he didn't look like the other kids that went there. And that's what probably tipped the authorities that, hey, this kid is lying, they're not supposed to be here, which prompted some sort of background check in terms of the address, and they figured out that that address wasn't where that kid lived. You know, but my problem with that is that, well, how many kids don't get caught because they fit in? You know, because they don't look out of place. You know? How many white people do that, but they don't get caught because the kid blends in and the kid is doing well or whatnot, so there's no incentive for somebody to really do a background check in terms of if they're lying. Because like I said, this problem is widespread. And it's not an issue of going from good to bad. It's an issue of going to a school that you're not supposed to be at. So I'd like to see more districts take a stand against this as opposed to just looking at this one case, because it happens a lot. And the dumb part about it is I have a couple of kids that aren't supposed to be there because the school I'm at isn't that bad compared to some of the other schools, but they're not supposed to be there. You know, oh, yeah, you know, I'm using my uncle's address, or I'm using my mom's using her coworker's address or whatnot. You know, it happens a lot. And the problem is no one really checks because the kids kind of blend in. You know what I mean? The kids kind of blend in. It's not that big of a deal, but that's still a problem for me. It's a problem, right? A kid going from a school in Compton to Beverly Hills is just as bad as a kid that goes from Orange County to some school in Beverly Hills. You still have two kids that aren't supposed to be there. But unfortunately, the kid from Compton is going to get called out because more than likely they're a minority and they don't look like they fit in. So they don't dress like the other kids. They may not have the same amount of money. They may be on a free or reduced lunch. And the kid from Orange County may blend in a little bit better. You know, he doesn't have Beverly Hills money, but at the end of the day, you know, he can kind of dress like the other kids are dressed. He doesn't need free or reduced lunch or whatnot. You know, he drives the car to school just like everybody else. But at the end of the day, he's not supposed to be there. So you have to stop that as well. That's my video. Hopefully you guys are able to follow me. Y'all take it easy. God bless.